Welcome to our deep dive today.
Oh, yeah.
We're going to be looking at To Kill a Mockingbird.
One of my favorites.
Yeah, it's such a good one. And we're going to be pulling excerpts from the book itself. So we're going to be getting to know Scout and Jem and Atticus.
The whole gang.
Yeah, and the whole cast of characters in Maycomb, Alabama.
The cast of characters is right.
And get ready for some twists and turns as we go through this, because we are going to talk about racial injustice and childhood innocence and the courage to stand up for what's right, even when it's difficult.
Yeah, those are themes that really resonate throughout the story.
Yeah,
And really continue to resonate today.
for sure. And, we experience all of this through Scout's eyes.
Yeah.
She's our narrator.
Yeah.
She's young and she's observant.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that adds kind of a layer of humor to it.
Yeah, her innocence provides a really unique perspective on all of the events that unfold.
Absolutely. So let's start with Scout's world and
Yeah.
the mysteries that capture her imagination.
Oh yeah, let's dive right in.
What do you think is one of the biggest mysteries that looms large?
Well, I mean, right off the bat, you got to talk about Boo Radley.
Yeah.
I mean, he's the recluse who never leaves his house.
Yeah.
He becomes this almost mythical figure
Yeah.
for the children in the story.
Absolutely. And they make up all these stories.
Right, their imaginations run wild,
Oh, yeah.
fueled by all the town gossip as well.
Yeah. And Jem, he just can't help himself but to kind of,
Oh, he's got to push the limits, right?
he's got to push the limits.
Yeah.
There's that infamous scene where he runs up and touches the Radley house.
Oh, yeah. I mean, talk about a dare.
I know.
It seems harmless, but
Right.
it's really his first encounter with the fear and prejudice that lurks beneath the surface in Maycomb.
Yeah, for sure. And I think that's a really interesting part of the book, too, is that Jem is kind of transitioning from this place of childhood games
Right.
to this realization that, oh, the world is actually a pretty scary place, and especially if you're different.
Exactly.
Yeah, and Scout is experiencing her own kind of awakening
Mm-hmm.
as she navigates school.
Hmm.
You know,
Formal education.
yes, exactly, the formal education system.
Right.
And her first day of school is full of surprises,
Yeah.
and not all of them are pleasant.
No, not at all. And I think her experience with Miss Caroline, the teacher,
Yes.
really highlights that.
Yeah.
She means well, but
But she's clueless.
she's a little clueless. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it shows the limitations of this rigid education system
Yes.
that doesn't always recognize individual differences.
Yes, and, it's that classic clash between
Right.
Atticus's kind of informal way of teaching his children
Right.
and then this very structured classroom.
Very different
Yeah.
styles of learning.
Totally.
Yeah.
And then there's the incident with Burris Ewell,
Oh, yeah.
who only shows up for the first day of school and then vanishes.
Gone.
Yeah, and Atticus uses this to explain that the Ewells have this very unique,
Very unique.
untouchable position
Yeah.
in Maycomb.
They live outside the norms
They do.
of society. And everybody just kind of accepts that.
They do. They really do.
It's interesting. It
Hold on.
shows how complex the social dynamics are in Maycomb.
Yes, it does.
And how certain groups are given leeway, like you said, almost untouchable,
Right.
maybe to maintain a semblance of order.
Yeah.
But it really does perpetuate these cycles of poverty and inequality.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It does. And I love that Scout and Jem have Miss Maudie Atkinson.
Oh, she's the best.
She's the best. Their neighbor. And she provides so much needed perspective
Yes, she does.
for these kids.
Yes, she does.
She challenges their assumptions about Boo Radley.
Right.
And offers this insight into the hypocrisy that we see happening.
Yeah. That runs rampant in Maycomb.
Yes, absolutely.
It's everywhere you look.
It is. And she's like a confidant to them.
She's a mentor to them,
Yeah, she really is.
encouraging them to think critically about the world around them.
Yeah, and question those prevailing narratives.
Especially about judging others.
Yes. And, we can't forget Dill.
Oh,
Who is this summertime visitor who brings just like this energy and imagination?
he's a whirlwind
He's a whirlwind.
of energy.
Yes, to Scout and Jim's lives.
They're partners in crime.
Yes, they are.
They go on all these adventures together,
Yeah, most of them involving Boo Radley.
trying to get him to come out.
Yes.
It never works.
I know, and I think, too, that Dill adds this layer of complexity
Yeah.
to the children's lives.
Because on the surface, he's just full of wonder and excitement.
Right.
But he carries his own burdens, too.
He does.
And we see that when he runs away from home.
Yeah, we do. And it's that reminder that even though childhood seems carefree,
Right?
it can be really challenging.
Yeah, it's not always easy.
It's not.
Yeah.
And speaking of challenging, let's talk about Mrs. Dubose.
Oh, Mr.
This
Burr.
cantankerous old lady who lives down the street.
The one who just yells insults.
She just yells insults at Atticus
Yeah.
and the children
And the children especially.
and Jim
Yeah.
in a moment of just like youthful rebellion.
Oh, yeah.
Takes his revenge and destroys her prized camellias.
Oh, those camellias.
No.
She loved those camellias.
And that's where we get this strange punishment from Atticus.
Oh, yeah.
He has to read to her every day for a month.
It seems so strange.
It does seem strange at first, but Atticus has a deeper lesson,
Oh, he always does.
always a deeper meaning.
Yes, and he reveals later that Mrs. Dubose is battling a morphine addiction,
Wow.
and reading to her was her way of kind of reclaiming her willpower
Oh,
while she's in so much pain.
yeah. I never thought of it that way.
Yeah.
That's really powerful.
It's a powerful example of Atticus using these everyday experiences to teach his kids about courage and compassion.
Right.
And even for those who may seem unlikable.
Exactly. And that reminds me of another significant experience for Scout and Jem.
Yes.
That visit to Calpurnia's church.
Yes. First purchase.
First purchase African ME church.
Yes. And it's their first real exposure to this
Oh, yeah.
segregated world
Yeah.
of Maycomb. It opens their eyes to a different way of life.
It does. And the church itself is very simple,
Yes.
but it emphasizes the importance of community and faith.
Absolutely. And then there's that collection
Oh, yeah.
for Tom Robinson's family.
Which kind of foreshadows what's coming.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah, and Calpurnia's explanation about having two voices.
Two voices.
Yes, the way she speaks at the Finch house versus how she speaks at church.
Oh, right.
It's a striking commentary on the social dynamics of the Jim Crow South.
Wow. Yeah, because Calpurnia navigates two worlds, right?
Yeah, she does.
The white world of the Finch family
Sure.
and the black community of Maycomb.
Yes, and this code switching
Yeah.
really highlights those unspoken rules.
And the expectations
Yeah.
that govern race relations
Yes.
back
Yeah.
then.
And, just when Scout and Jem are starting to settle into this new normal,
Right.
and Alexandra arrives.
Oh, boy.
And she comes to Maycomb to instill some ladylike qualities in Scout,
Which does not go over well.
which does not go over well
I can imagine.
with Scout and,
Mhm.
and Alexandra represents traditional Southern society.
Yeah. All about social status.
Yes.
And decorum.
Exactly. And so it creates this tension
Yeah.
between her values and Atticus's.
Yeah. Because Atticus is more progressive.
Much more progressive.
Yes.
And we see this especially when
Right.
she disapproves of Calpurnia.
Oh, yeah.
But Atticus defends Calpurnia,
Of course he does.
recognizing her value and this bond that she's formed with his children.
Right. He refuses to bow to those societal pressures
Yeah.
and puts human connection first.
Yeah. And meanwhile, Jem is starting to become increasingly aware
Of what?
of these social hierarchies.
Yeah, he's getting older.
Yeah, he even talks about wanting to reorganize the tax system at one point.
For a kid his age, that's
No,
a
man.
pretty astute observation.
It is. And you can tell that he's really starting to understand those inequalities.
Right. The complexities of race and class
Yeah.
and how those shape lives,
Absolutely, yes.
opportunities. Yeah.
Yeah. So we have this town that's simmering with these unspoken tensions.
Mm-hmm.
We have these children that are grappling with these complex realities. And we have this mystery surrounding Boo Radley.
That's just the beginning.
That's just the beginning.
There's so much more to come.
Buckle up. We're heading into part 2 of our deep dive,
Can't wait.
where we're going to focus on the trial that shakes Maycomb to its core.
This is where it gets really good.
Yeah.
And as we get closer to the trial of Tom Robinson,
Yeah.
you can just feel the tension in Maycomb.
Oh, absolutely.
It's like the whole town is holding its breath,
yeah.
like bracing for impact.
Yeah.
The courtroom becomes this stage where these prejudices
Right.
and the struggle for justice
Yeah.
play out in a very public way.
They really do. And it's not just the townspeople who are caught up in all this.
Right.
Scout's extended family arrives.
Oh, yeah.
So it becomes this strange mix of family reunion
Yeah.
and social commentary.
Oh, it's so interesting how Lee does that. The way she describes the courtroom scene,
Yes.
it's so vivid.
Oh, it's so good.
You can picture the segregation of the seating,
Right.
the expressions on everyone's faces, the
Yeah.
anticipation.
Yeah.
Like you're right there in the courtroom,
You really are.
feeling the weight of everything.
Yeah. And Tom Robinson's testimony
Oh, man.
is so powerful.
So powerful.
He recounts how he was helping Mayella Ewell with chores
Right.
and his attempts to escape her advances and the fear that grips him as a black man falsely accused by a white woman.
I mean, that just highlights
It does.
the power dynamics at play in a society riddled with racial prejudice.
Right, and his words
Yeah.
expose those deep biases.
Right. It's almost impossible
Yeah.
for a black man to get a fair trial
Yeah.
when accused by a white person.
And Atticus,
Oh, Atticus?
in his closing argument,
Yeah.
delivers this passionate plea for justice.
Yeah, yeah. He's amazing.
He really is.
He challenges the jury
He does?
to see past their prejudice and to recognize Tom's humanity.
It's one of the most powerful moments
It is.
in the book.
It shows his moral integrity.
Yes, it does.
He doesn't just, dismantle the case.
Right.
He challenges the very foundation
Yes.
for the prejudice against Tom.
And he appeals to their sense of reason and compassion.
Right. Reminds them that everybody's equal under the law.
And yet,
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Despite his words,
Right.
the jury delivers a guilty verdict.
It's devastating.
How it's devastating to Jem.
Yeah.
Especially...
It really shatters his innocence.
It does.
That belief in fairness.
Right.
And justice.
It's just gone.
Yeah. It's a harsh reminder that prejudice can win.
It does.
Even in the courtroom.
Yeah.
And it makes you think about the legal system. Because it's supposed to be fair.
It is.
But it can be swayed by societal bias.
Right.
It's supposed to protect against.
And then it gets worse.
Oh, no.
Tom is shot and killed trying to escape prison.
Trying to escape.
I know. And the reactions to his death are so telling.
Yeah, it reveals so much.
They do.
About each character.
Right, and how they view justice.
Some are deeply affected, like Atticus.
Right.
And Jem.
Yeah, they understand.
They recognize the injustice.
They do.
But then others, like Aunt Alexandra, seem more concerned with keeping things as they are.
Yes, the status quo.
Yes, even if it means ignoring injustice.
Yeah, and then Mr. Underwood.
Yeah, the editor.
Yes, the newspaper editor who normally keeps to himself.
Right.
He writes this scathing editorial comparing Tom's death to the killing of a songbird.
Mockingbird.
Yes, it's such a powerful metaphor.
It is.
It really highlights the waste of life.
Right.
Due to prejudice and fear.
It's like even those who don't fully understand racial injustice can see that this was wrong.
Yes, they can.
Yeah.
And then we see some characters step up.
Oh, really?
In unexpected ways after the trial.
Like who?
Like Mr. Link Diaz. He was Tom's former employer, and he shows his support for Helen.
Yeah, Tom's widow.
Yes, by confronting Bob Ewell.
Oh, wow.
When Bob Ewell starts harassing her.
Good for him.
Yeah.
It's like a quiet form of resistance against the prejudice in Maycomb.
Yeah, it really is.
He chooses to act, even though it might go against
social norms.
Yeah.
So we've seen the trial that exposes the deep-seated prejudice and this tragic death that leaves the community grappling with their conscience. But there's one more act in this drama.
Oh, really?
And it involves Boo Radley.
Boo Radley's coming out of the shadows.
Yes, he is.
Wow.
And after the heaviness of the trial and the aftermath, we kind of get a little bit of relief when we shift to the Halloween pageant.
Oh, yeah, a little bit of lightheartedness.
Yeah, Scout's dressed as a ham.
Oh, yeah, the ham costume.
That I always thought was so funny.
It's classic Scout.
Yeah.
A little quirky, a little clumsy, but endearing.
And it kind of symbolizes her innocence.
Yeah, which is about to be challenged in a big way.
Yeah, for sure. And as they're walking home through the woods, they're attacked.
It's terrifying.
Oh, it's so scary.
It's dark.
Yeah.
And you don't know who's coming.
You don't. And Scout can barely see.
Right. She's in that ham costume.
Yeah.
And then Jem's arm
is broken.
Yeah.
And it's just this really chaotic, frightening moment.
That shows how vulnerable they are.
Yes, it does.
And then out of nowhere.
Yeah.
Boo Radley.
I know. He saves the children.
He does.
It's like this total flip of the script.
I know the person they thought was a monster.
Right.
Becomes their savior.
Yeah. And we have to reevaluate everything we thought we knew about him.
And then the scene shifts.
Yes.
To Jem's room.
Yes.
Atticus, Sheriff Tate. And Boo Radley.
I'm talking about Bob Ewell.
Yeah.
Who's dead.
Yeah.
And Sheriff Tate says he fell on his own knife. It's a big moral dilemma.
It is.
Is he protecting Boo?
Right.
Or is he...
compromising justice?
Yeah.
I mean, it's a debate.
It is.
That readers have had for years.
For years.
What is justice in this situation?
Yeah, is it black and white? Or is there a gray area?
And then Scout says...
Yeah.
It'd be like shooting a mockingbird, wouldn't it?
It's like She understands
Yeah.
that protecting Boo is the right thing to do.
Yeah, he's innocent.
Yeah.
He doesn't deserve this.
And that line, I think, really sums up the whole book.
The idea that it's wrong
Yeah.
to harm something innocent.
Like a mockingbird.
Exactly. And I think Boo is like a mockingbird.
He is.
You know, misunderstood.
Yeah.
Weird.
So that brings us to the end
Wow.
of our deep dive.
That went by fast.
I know.
To Kill a
I
Mockingbird.
know. Such a good book.
We've explored these characters.
Yeah.
The tough issues.
Yeah.
The lessons about justice and compassion.
What are your final thoughts?
It's a story that stays with you. It reminds you that even in a world full of injustice,
Yeah.
there's still good.
There
There are people who stand up for what's right.
And small acts of kindness matter.
They do.
Yeah. And it challenges us to look at our own biases
Yeah.
and work towards a better world.
A more just world.
Yeah. A more just world, a more compassionate world.
Absolutely.
Well, thank you for joining us on this deep dive into To Kill a Mockingbird.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
We hope you enjoyed it as